What's going on for victims and villains? My name is Josh, and today I'm going to be counting down my top 10 most anticipated movies for 2024. As one year closes, we're looking forward to another year of awesome, hopefully awesome cinematic masterpieces and memories. Every year around this time, I'm always intentional about saying I really need to get an anticipated list done. And we've done victims and villains for like 6 or 7 years at this point, and this is the first time that I'm ever doing it. So I'm really excited to kind of talk about these films. Now, whether or not they actually end up making my top 10 list at the end of the year is another story, because I create top 10 most anticipated lists every year. Coming into another year on my Letterboxd account, but hardly any of them ever make them actually into the top 10, let alone top 25, with the exception of Hellraiser from a couple years ago. Before I jump into my top 10 anticipated, I'm going to give a few honorable mentions to kick things off. First being Lisa Frankenstein, which is the directorial debut of Zelda Williams, the daughter of the late Robin Williams. I'm just honestly curious to see not only what she's going to be able to do with the premise of Frankenstein, but also at the same time to kind of just see what she's like as an entertainer. And the fact that she's doing something that's horror comedy really has me interested. Next up, I'm going to throw in Deadpool 3 in here. I'm not the biggest on superheroes, and this may actually be one of the only times you see a superhero list this high on the list, but I'm really anxious to see what they end up doing with in terms of not only reunion between Jackman and Reynolds, but also some of the set leaks for this just look crazy. And of course, I'm also going to throw on here Nosferatu as well. Love the original, and I'm really anxious to see what Robert Eggers is going to be doing with this. And the cast that he has assembled for this is nothing short of exceptional. And with that, let's jump into the top 10. At number 10, call me crazy for what you will, but it is Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2. I really had a blast with the first one. The first one, I am probably in the select few group of people that actually ended up enjoying this film. And just seeing what they've been able to do with an upgraded budget in terms of character design really has me highly anticipating this film. Blood and Honey was one of my most anticipated films coming into this year, and I had a blast with it. I was one of the highest rated reviews that I've seen. I gave the movie a 4 out of 5. I had a really fun time with it, and I'm really going to be adding it to my collection here shortly. But I just honestly had a blast with it, and I'm really kind of curious to see not only what they're going to do with this movie, but also at the same time what they're going to do with this universe moving forward. And I'm really excited to see it. At number 9, I have Orion and the Dark. I simply have this up here simply out of curiosity. I'm a huge Charlie Kaufman fan, and anything that this man puts his name to is going to be high for anticipation for me. I really loved I'm Thinking of Ending Things. It was one of my favorite, actually top 3 films of the year that it was released. When we covered adaptation on That High Praise, and it still ends up being not only one of my favorite episodes of the podcast, but also at the same time, it is one of my favorite Nicolas Cage movies of all time. And I love being John Malkovich. So to kind of see him step into not only a horror comedy kid version, like almost gateway horror, but the fact that this is animated and the fact that it is stop motion animation has me all riddled and giddy with excitement. At number 8, I have Wicked Part 1. I absolutely adore The Wizard of Oz. You guys can see my full review right here. I actually did a review because I planned to start a series a couple of years ago, and time got away from me. So there is that. But in all seriousness, The Wizard of Oz is one of my favorite films of all time, and I have not been blessed to see Wicked on Broadway or any variations of it on stage. And so the fact that this is getting not a one part but a two-part series, I'm really excited, and I'm really kind of curious to see. And the fact that this has talents like Ariana Grande and Michelle Yeoh attached to this really makes me excited, and I honestly cannot wait to see this next Christmas. Speaking of favorite movies, at number 7, I have the Mean Girls reboot. Honestly, you can call this curiosity more than anything else. I have not seen full bits of the trailer. I've seen snippets here and there. The fact that this is a musical, the fact that Tina Fey and Tim Meadows are returning for this gives me some semblance of hope, but I'm really hoping that it's not something like Dumb and Dumber 2 that essentially just kind of brought back familiar, rehashed and re-updated the classic just for a new audience. It's kind of my hesitation with this one, but we'll find out in a couple weeks. At number 6 is an indie film called Long Legs. Now, this is a Nicolas Cage starring film. This sounds like it could be absolutely horrific and absolutely entertaining. And at this point, as one of the co-hosts of the Nicolas Cage podcast here, That's High Praise, I try my best to always have a Nicolas Cage movie on my radar at some point for the next year. Coming into this year, it was Butcher's Crossing and Dream Scenario, both of which made 2 completely separate lists in terms of end-of-year stuff. But I'm really just curious to kind of see what he's going to get to do next in the realm of horror, because anytime Nicolas Cage steps into horror, it is like a match made in heaven. The two of them just go so well together. At number 5, I'm probably going to butcher this name, but it's Joker Foliade. I suck at pronouncing names, so hopefully I got that right. But Joker was my favorite film of 2019. And I think it is a perfect film that kind of just stands alone on its own incredibly well and doesn't need a sequel. However, I'm curious to see what Joaquin Phoenix and Todd Phillips are going to do next. The fact that this film has my all-time favorite DC character of Harley Quinn, I'm really curious to see what this universe's version or take on that character is, but also the fact I'm kind of curious to see what Lady Gaga is going to do with that. I thought she had an incredible performance in A Star is Born, and from what I've seen of her in American Horror Story, I also really loved that performance as well, so I'm kind of curious to see what she's going to do here with this one next. At number 4, we're stepping back into the world of horror with Maxine. I really was kind of so-so on X. Pearl was incredible upon a rewatch. If you guys saw my original review, I was kind of on it, but upon a rewatch, I am man enough to say that I was completely wrong. That movie is nothing short of incredible, and to kind of see that this is going to be the grand finale, possibly, of this trilogy, I'm very excited about it, and the fact that this is getting take place in the 80s, one of my favorite periods of history. I'm here for it. Not only that, Kevin Bacon coming into it, Mia Goth returning it as the titular character. I'm here for it 100%. At number 3, I'm going to put Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I absolutely love Planet of the Apes. It is probably my favorite film franchise that is not horror of all time. I love all of the original goofy, campy 60s, 70s, and 80s ones that they did. I even like the Tim Burton version of that. And it's not great, but I had fun with it. Of course, I love this new trilogy, and kind of getting to see what this world is without the talents of Matt Reeves or Andy Serkis really has me really curious about what this is. But anything, honestly, with involving this world, I'm here for it 100%, and it has my attention. At number 2, I broke down the teaser trailer to this one already, but that is Terrifier 3, and you can see that breakdown right up here. Click that link, or click the link in the show notes below. I love Art the Clown. Terrifier is one of my most, and Terrifier 3, and the fact that this is a Christmas movie, Christmas slasher, like, I'm here for it. I feel like we haven't gotten a good Christmas horror movie made stateside in probably since the 80s. And I am here to kind of see what they're going to do with this. Anything at this point that Damien Leone wants to put his name on, he obviously has my attention. He is one of the best filmmakers working in horror right now, and you mix that with David Howard Thornton and this character, and the fact that they're continuing on that storyline from the from this most recent sequel. I'm 100% here for it. And again, to hear me talk about my predictions a little bit more, you guys can click the link in the description. Check out our teaser 3 breakdown. My number one most anticipated movie for next year is not a Hollywood release. It is not an independent release. It is actually straight to video, and that is the animated version of Watchmen. So this past summer at San Diego Comic-Con, DC announced that they would be their slate for 2024 animated films would be a Crisis on Infinite Earths adaptation and a Watchmen adaptation. Now, since then, we have gotten our first look at the Crisis on Infinite Earths trailer, and it has been announced that this will be the first of a trilogy. And so I'm kind of really curious on seeing how they're going to take the Watchmen. This is more curiosity than anything else, but Watchmen is my favorite book of all time. It is not only my favorite HBO series of all time, it is probably my favorite television event that we've had in the 21st century. It is incredible. I have gone back, I have read the Watchmen series at least once a year for the last 10 years, not to mention that I am currently re-going through the HBO series for like the 5th or 6th time. Like, to say that I'm anticipating and that I'm hyped for this property like would be an understatement, but DC has a history of really messing up their adaptations, and I'm really hoping that this is a proper adaptation for the Alan Moore story and not a guise of doing the Doomsday Clock that they did a few years ago. Not to say that I had a problem with that in its comics and kind of where they took those characters and those stories, but don't tell me you're going to give me Watchmen and then give me something Watchmen versus DC. Don't do that. Just don't. And so with that, that is what I am anticipating coming into the new year. But we are only a couple of days away from 2024. What films are you looking forward to? What are you anticipating? Click the link. News like this, our Patreon, and some of the videos that I've mentioned in the course of this video. But in the comments below, also comment below and let me know what you guys are anticipating coming into the next year. And until next year, Happy New Year, and we'll see you on the other side.